still in your hands. And this is my confidence. I have never failed me. Promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. And this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet.
Amen. Well, thank you. Before you're seated, go ahead, turn around and shake someone's hand around you. Greet one another. Just say hello and good morning. Take a second to do that as the team comes down. Alrighty. Well, good morning. Let's try this again. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, everyone is awake at 9 o'clock. We are so happy to see you. My name is Brent Hay. I am the Student Ministry Director here at Bethlehem Baptist Church. It's my privilege and honor to welcome you here on this, well, kind of remnant of a rainy Saturday pulling into a Sunday, but still a beautiful Sunday morning. Before we start the worship service, just a few announcements. First and foremost, just a little bit about Bethlehem. We are a church that exists to reach people, grow believers, and go impact the world with the gospel. Once again, we are so happy you've chosen to worship with us today. Before we jump in again, just have a few announcements. So first announcement, as always, we believe at Bethlehem that discipleship is done better in circles than rows. It is great to come together, to worship together, to hear a sermon, but real discipleship, real life change, real growth happens when we are in a circle together talking about real things happening in our lives in small groups. So Bethlehem, we offer two different forms of small groups. The first of which meets at our 10 o'clock hour, which are our Sunday school classes. We offer 3 different Sunday school classes for various age groups, as well as student ministry and children's ministry life groups that meet during the 10 o'clock hour. We also have other life groups that meet during the week, such as the Tuesday night one that the colleagues are leading, as well as our Students Connect time, which serves time as a life group on Wednesday nights, and also our CYP College and Professionals Bible Study that meets on Thursday nights. So if you're not already connected and plugged into the small group, we would love to come talk to you and find a way to get you connected with the small group here at Bethlehem. Next up in the announcements, as always, we have our Wednesday night dinner. So again, at 5:45, the dinner starts, and then Bible study starting at 6 o'clock. $6 a person. I don't know what the food is this week, so it's a mystery. Show up, come eat with us. But again, we would love for you to join us for dinner, or at the very least, come join us at 6:30 for a Bible study. Also happening on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8 o'clock is our Students Connect time. Once again, Students Connect is just an opportunity we have to connect students with each other, and most importantly, students with God by spending time in His Word and playing games with each other. So if you're a student, please come. If you know any students, please invite them. We would love for them to come join us. And then Thursday nights, as I previously mentioned, we are college and professionals. CYP Ministries walking through a Bible study on the book of Job. So the whole purpose of the study is seeing God in suffering. And again, someone's like, wait, God doesn't suffer. No, seeing God in the midst of the suffering we are going through in our lives. Job had a pretty rotten things happen to him because Satan wanted to prove to God a point that, hey, if Job had horrible things happen to him, Job would curse God. So we're seeing Job walking through the suffering that was inflicted on him, and him trying to wrestle, what is the purpose, what is the cause, why am I going through this, what is the meaning of life if life is this miserable? So we're picking up on that. We just finished Job's response to his first friend in chapter 6 and 7 this Thursday night. We're jumping to Job's second friend this week and seeing what Job's second friend sees as the reason behind Job's suffering and what Job should do to fix his suffering. Spoiler, Job's friend gets it wrong. But we'd love for you to join us if you're roughly in the ages of 18 to 30. We'd love for you to join us in that ministry. Also, a big event coming up, our Fall Festival, is Saturday, October 21st. This is a community outreach event. The awesome part of this is not only is it an opportunity for you to bring your families and come have fun together, it's also an opportunity for you to invite extended family who may not be church, friends who are not church, neighbors, especially neighbors with kids, to this event where we can have some fun, games, food, and just an easy opportunity to invite people to a church campus. There's no pressure, there's no, hey, you're going to sing these songs you might not have heard. No, it's, hey, come have fun with us, get to know us, get connected with Bethlehem, and most importantly, get connected with God. So once again, more information coming soon this week, so stay tuned to our Facebook and Instagram accounts for information there. But again, this is also an So no pressure, no, like, you have to show up and serve for this amount of time, but we would love for you to come and help run a station and just bless some families in our community and in our church by serving there. And then finally, when it comes to doing all these events, none of this is possible without your generosity and giving. We are blessed at Bethlehem to be able to put on these events, to have these ministries, but the truth of the matter is it does take some money. So we offer multiple different ways to give here at Bethlehem, in addition to just your time. So one option is giving online. There's a QR code in front of you in most of the pews that will take you to our e-bulletin. There's a little link on the e-bulletin that takes you to our giving page. Also on top of it, we have some giving boxes, I promised you last week, and they're here, mounted in the lobby, right on the opposite sides of the prayer room, the glass room, in the back of the lobby. No pressure, we're not like begging you for money, but if you feel at all called to give, be generous with your money. Those are two favorite ways to give. You can also mail your money here or just drop it off another time, but those are two preferred ways of giving. And once again, we are so thankful for your willingness to continue to give. With that being said, I'm going to step aside and ask you guys to direct your attention to the screens to watch this video about what the North American Mission Board NAME is doing to reach people in and through North America and our communities.
Since 2010, Southern Baptists have planted more than 10,000 new churches in every part of North America. We've done it in big cities and small towns, urban centers and suburbs, on college campuses, and in military communities. At this pace, by 2030, 1/3 of the entire family of churches will have been started in just 2 decades. God is using all of us, new churches and established churches, in numbers we have never seen before, to engage communities with the gospel, make disciples, and join Jesus in building his church. Together, we are a family of churches planting churches, everywhere for everyone, and we're just getting started. Together, we are ready to see how God writes the next chapter, the next day, the next decade, as we are united by the gospel. Together, we want to see God move, multiplying the church all over North America, that the nations may know him. That's why we exist. That's why we are Sin Network.
So as we see what God is doing around our world and here in North America, we must always keep in mind what God wants to do with us and through us. And that's where we find ourselves this morning in Mark chapter 8. We'll be taking a look at the gospel according to Mark chapter 8, the first, 21 verses. And God's word reads, "In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered and they had nothing to eat, he called his disciples to him and said to them, 'I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from far away.' And his disciples answered him, 'How can one feed these people with the bread here in this desolate place?' And he asked them, 'How many loaves do you have?' And they said, 7. And he directed the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them, and he gave them to his disciples to set before the people, and they set them before the crowd. And they had a few small fish. And having blessed them, he said that these also should be set before them. And they ate. And they were satisfied, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 4,000 people. And he sent them away. And immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanuta." Common occurrence, Jesus is teaching, crowds come out to see him, and this one is a preaching Lollapalooza. It's not a one-hit thing, it's not a one-day thing. Jesus says they've been there 3 days, and they haven't eaten. He's concerned about them. This shouldn't surprise us. He is concerned about our needs constantly, regularly. That's why he tells us, ask anything of your Father and it'll be given you. You know, I've gotten back talk from children and colleagues, but never quite like this. He's concerned about their needs, so he asks that simple question that he has asked before. It's not the first time it's happened. The simple question, do you have bread? Yeah, I mean, we have some scraps, but I mean, nothing for all of these folks. 7 loaves. 7 easy loaves. But Jesus seems really confident in the divine blessing that's going to come. He doesn't get worked up. Bring them to me. He blesses the food, and he tells his disciples, sit it in front of the people. And almost as an afterthought, he mentions, oh yeah, we have a few fish. And he blesses the fish, and he tells them, lay it out to the folks. Now, Jesus is meeting the very physical need that these individuals have. He has blessed the food. Notice he has not blessed the individuals. They set it out before them. And Mark says, as they finished, they were all satisfied. You know that feeling? Long day, been out in the heat. I don't know. Yesterday's obviously not a good example because nobody was out in that. But you spend an afternoon of working around the house, kind of tired, kind of sweaty, and somehow food appears. Now, maybe your spouse fixed it for you, maybe a friend fixed it for you, maybe you went to your favorite restaurant, but the food appears. And unlike those many other times where you know you're hungry, you're craving something, but you don't know exactly what it is, for me it's always something like chocolate pudding. There's never chocolate pudding in the house. But you sit down and you eat. And the food just seems to hit the spot. It was exactly what you were craving. It's just enough to fill you up and make you feel like, yeah, that was a good meal, but not so much that you're miserable. You feel like you could go on with the rest of your day and everything is right. You forget that you were tired, you forgot about all the work, and all you know is you're in a state of happiness. You are content. And for that moment, everything seems right in your life. This, my friends, is exactly what they had experienced. They had been there for days. They have eaten. They're full, not over full, but they're not going to be hungry in an hour. Their day has been done. It is set. They heard Jesus, and then Jesus tells them, Go home. We're done here. We're so thankful you came, but it's that time. And they depart. And he and his disciples get in a boat to go across Galilee. Not the first time we've seen Jesus feed multitudes. This time it's 4,000. Last time it was 5,000. The specific number is not important, other than we know that God met the need divinely. It wasn't generosity of people, it was God being good, handling the situation. And that's important to remember as we move on. Picking up in verse 11. The Pharisees came and began to argue with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. And he sighed deeply. In his spirit, and he said, "Why does this generation seek a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation." And he left them. And he got into the boat again and went to the other side. Just had that moment. Everything was right in the world. He crosses over in his next destination, and his friends show up. The Pharisees are there. And anytime the Pharisees show up, there's just a little bit of, can we say excitement? There's a little bit of drama. There's a little bit of conflict. Okay, there's a lot of conflict. They don't like him very much. They've seen him. They've heard him. They know the stories that have been told about him. He has done phenomenal things here on earth. They've seen him heal people. They've heard about the feeding of 5,000. They've just heard about him feeding 4,000. He is doing incredible things here on earth, but not enough that they would believe. You see, they understood it as, well, much like we do. The earth is Satan's property. He seems to have his way here. They wanted a sign that he, Jesus, was from God. Something that was beyond the earth. He might have power here, but Satan does, but not there. So Jesus, give us a strike of lightning. Give us a clap of thunder. Have fire fall from the sky. Maybe a massive voice to speak out to us. Give us something not of the earth. His response was, he had already done it, folks. He had provided them something not of this earth, his very self. They wanted the display, they wanted the magical, they wanted fireworks. Wasn't concerned with the needs that were met, was not concerned about the hope that he could provide. Their sole desire was the grandiose. Something different, something they hadn't seen before. So Jesus left them, got into the boat again, and went to the other side. Here is the meat of this story. Now the disciples had forgotten to bring bread, and they had only one loaf with them in the boat. And Jesus cautioned them, saying, "Watch out. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod." And they began to discuss one with another the fact that they had no bread. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Having eyes you do not see, having ears you do not hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did we take up?" They said to him, 12. "And the 7 for the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up?" And they said to him, 7. And he said to them, "Do you not yet understand?" Have you ever noticed how easily we get distracted? Have you ever noticed how easily we get distracted with the lives of other people? You know, we sit back and we're going through day-to-day life, and this huge thing has happened to our culture, the cause of celebrity. And we know exactly what's going on in these people's lives. How do we know this? Well, it's in every magazine, and if you don't read, usually you can find it on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. We know the lives of most celebrities perhaps better than themselves. And we see things happen to them, and we get so amazed or impressed. Remember, it wasn't that long ago, poor little Meghan Markle found herself a prince. We look at that and we see it and we say, wow, how fortunate, how lucky. It is a miracle. Because I hear finding prince and princesses aren't easy. I don't know. The disciples had witnessed Jesus feeding 5,000 and 4,000 in a relatively short period of time. With such an event like that, you would think you'd remember it. You would think it would leave a mark on your life saying, wow, the things he can do. They find themselves in the boat and they realize there's 13 of them and they have 1 loaf of bread. Oh, the dilemma. And for the disciples, worst yet, Jesus is talking about leaven. He knows we left all the food back there. What are we going to do? They heard the leaven, but I get the sneaky suspicion they didn't hear it out. Yeah, Jesus has said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Herod. Folks, Jesus was not concerned about bread. He was telling, and we know he wasn't concerned about bread because he's talking about leaven. The Jewish people do not eat leavened bread. They avoid it. It takes too long. They were called to not wait around for the bread to rise. Once it's there, no yeast, cooked, baked, eat, go. It takes time to rise with yeast and leaven. Leaven was something bad. And here it is, folks. Jesus knew and was warning them against the leaven of the Pharisees. Hear this, hypocrisy, which they are full of, and the leaven of Herod. Now, we don't get anything from Herod here. We don't have a pointed argument to Herod, but we know who Herod was. He was a puppet king in the region of Galilee who had everything he could possibly want. He was powerful. He was, semi-popular. He was secular. Jesus is warning them, don't think like him. This is so much bigger. This is so much more. And I hate saying it this way, but there is no other way to say it. The disciples are just being dumb. They have got fixated on one thing and they can't depart from it. We forgot the bread. Jesus knows they're going over this, so he plays the little game. Let's have a quick recap. 4,000 people, 7 loaves. How many empties did you take up? Why are you worried about bread? God will provide. Be worried that you are not getting it. Be worried that you're more concerned about your appearance and how things look and the hypocrisy of your heart. Be more concerned that you want to be secular and not spiritual. Be more concerned that you care more about bread than being in my presence. Folks, this is where the rubber meets the road, and here's why. I think it is safe to say nobody here can multiply bread to feed 5,000 people. But have we become so hard of heart that we demand a special sign for us because what Jesus has already provided isn't enough? Well, God, I know you have been faithful in the past. I know the battle belongs to you, and in the long run we win, but you know what? I really need, fill in the blank, this too. After all, if you love me, you'd give it to me. God, if you're out there, you can get me 5,000 likes on TikTok. God, I'm not sure what path I should take for the rest of my life, so just bring down a lightning bolt and strike me to move in a certain direction. God is not a magic genie. God does not see our failure to plan, our failure to serve, our failure to read and pray as an emergency on his part. He gives us what we need: his word and fellow believers. He gives us constant access. And he says, try me. Follow me. I will make you. And in our hard-heartedness, we say, no, God, make a display of me. Because we don't know that what you will provide or have provided is sufficient. Much less satisfying. You see, I fear we as a people have gotten so caught up in our own personal satisfactions that we have become hard of seeing and hard of hearing. Our world revolves around us and our celebrity interests, seeking the very things that Herod sought, acting the very way the Pharisees acted. Oh, but we're smart. We justify and rationalize our way through it saying, oh, but this is acceptable. Church, do you hear God? Do you hear him speaking to you? In the way that he speaks, follow me. Love me. Serve me. What's our response? Well, God, I'd serve you if I had another loaf of bread. Or if you provide me that job. Or this amount of money shows up in my account. Or if you just make that problem go away. If you will just fix my car, my job, my marriage, my children. Do we have more in common with Jesus? Or with those Pharisees that show up every so often to complicate his life? This week, analyze your life. Are you hearing with ears to hear? Eyes to see? For we all are called to return, repent, and turn back to Christ. That is our life's calling. And I can assure you, he will satisfy like nothing else. So musicians come.